Today on our show, E3 predictions.
And also our thoughts on Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Welcome to the BitGeek podcast. I'm your host, Ron Avis, and with me, as always, is my co-host,
Nick Wright.
And today we're going to talk about the E3 predictions coming up, or my E3 predictions, or our E3 predictions, what we think is going to happen on the E3.
Yeah.
Also, our...
Kind of a wish list, what we would like to see, maybe.
Yeah, like, we're not experts or prognosticators or whatever.
Because I know the things that I kind of wish I know just aren't going to happen.
Yeah, I'd like to lay out some things that, like I wish would happen, would be cool to happen, but probably not going to happen, because we know how E3 works by now. There's usually things get leaked, and, if you read a lot of news like I do, you kind of get a feel for, what's going to happen. Things get leaked. There really aren't that many surprises when it comes to E3. So as of the recording of this show, and the E3 is about to happen, which is, for those of you who don't know, E3 is like Christmas for video gamers. That's when all of the developers, publishers get together and they spend a whole lot of money to show off their games that are going to be coming out for this year and also, years to come. The games that people get really excited for. So what we want to talk about today as part of our show is are the 5 things that I believe we'll see for E3. Pretty much not guaranteed things, but things that I'm pretty sure we're going to see and things that I'm excited for. And to get things started, one thing that I think we're going to see is a lot more support for the Sony PSVR, which was really kind of a big deal. PSVR and VR in general is kind of the new generation.
Yeah, and I was even just thinking recently, because it was like, a huge thing. Like, it came out, and it was a big deal. And then it just kind of, you don't really hear anything anymore.
Just kind of tailed off.
Like, maybe, like, a new game will come out. Like, Tekken 7 just came out, and I was looking up stuff on it, and I noticed that there's some kind of feature. I don't really know exactly what it does, but it uses the PSVR somehow. And that's what really got me kind of reminded and thinking about it, that, oh, yeah, that's still a thing. And, where's all the push for that?
Yeah, it seemed like Sony made a big deal in the fall. They had the big release of I think it was in October. In fact, it was right around my birthday. Yeah. Because I was all excited about it, had it all set up. You came by, we played, whatever game came along with it. And Batman, maybe?
Yeah, there's that Batman VR.
Batman Arkham VR.
And then there was the special mission for the Star Wars Battlefront.
Yeah, that came a little later. Some things started coming out for it here and there, but the big titles, games like Riggs and Battlezone.
Did you ever play Resident Evil 7? Because it seems like that was really...
I played the demo, and it really kind of like scared the crap out of me a little bit.
It seems like it was made for VR.
Yeah, it's the first big AAA game that people are really excited about, because instead of it just being an experience, which a lot of the initial games that came out for PSVR, they were more experiences, like you're in a shark cage, or you're shooting a gun in a high-speed chase. So it's very fragmented, not full game experiences. And Resident Evil, even though the game's not just for VR, it's a totally playable game, but you had the ability to play the entire game in PSVR.
I really feel like they structured that game, like designed it around. Like, we're going to make it available for everything else also, but I feel like they really structured it for the VR.
Yeah, well, it's also totally in first person too, right? Like, is that the first Resident Evil game where you can play the entire game in first person perspective?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's really what VR is all about, is first person.
Someday I need to play that game.
Everyone says it's a really great game.
Yeah, they do.
But the funny thing about VR is it's so good for the horror platform, the horror genre.
Well, because it really immerses you.
It really immerses you, and the VR is really interesting, because some of the games have more of the graphics aren't to standard of like your AAA games that you see now. They're a little scaled back, but even though if you're looking at polygon graphics, like, your mind is tricked you're still seeing that object and you're in that space.
Yeah, like it's actually there.
So yeah, so when you kick it up to like somewhat believable graphics, like you see in Resident Evil, and then you're in this, dark house, this scary house, and there's like stuff right in front of you. I mean, it's unbelievable. And if you've never experienced VR, it's just, you can't really describe it. You just have to put it on and try it out. And I'm really into VR, and I did the Star Wars game, which was really cool. I know you
I
did that.
I played that. That was fun.
It was really impressive. Just about 15-20 minute experience, but to answer your question, no, I haven't played the Resident Evil game. I'm kind of a chicken. Like I'm gonna play it, and in fact, we have the very first.
If I was completely honest, I think probably I would be more chicken if I had the PlayStation VR and was going to play it on there, whereas I don't, and I'm just like, I need to play it on Xbox One or whatever. And it's just because I haven't yet, because I've played other things and I'd like to, but I'd probably be chicken on the VR also.
The ironic thing is I really enjoy horror movies. I like scary movies. Most things don't scare me. But I think it's just because I'm used to the beats. I know what to expect. The jump scares don't bother me. You can always kind of close your eyes if you're watching a movie, or kind of like focus on something else. But when you're in VR, you're in it. You can close your eyes, I guess, but it's a completely different experience. They really nail it. And I will be playing Resident Evil. Maybe we'll do a Let's Play on that, where I can get myself in that world, and you can laugh at me. People at home can laugh at me how chicken I'm acting. But I did do the demo, which is just a few short minutes. You just kind of get an idea of like you walk around the house. You probably played the same demo.
I played the demo.
Yeah,
just
so
not VR, but I played the demo.
Yeah, I got to the point where you get to the door and you open the door and the guy's like, like kind of predictably scares you. And even though I know that's coming, like I feel it, I'm still kind of freaked out. So having to play that whole game in VR, I'm not ready for it, or I just don't want to play it by myself, man. I know that sounds awful. But we're going to be doing a Let's Play very soon, so look on our channel for the Farpoint, which is a new game that just came out, which a lot of people are really excited for in the PlayStation VR community. It's a first-person shooter, which it's kind of the first of its kind. Like, there are little mini games that you can do where you can shoot here and there.
Yeah, I really know nothing of this game.
Yeah, so I've only seen some short videos on it. And so I'm looking forward to trying that out. And it's this wave of games that I think people are really anxious to see how they turn out. Will they make you motion sick? That's another thing really we haven't touched on.
Yeah, I mean, on Star Wars, I kind of did a little bit. Not a lot where I felt like I had to take it off or whatever, but a little bit.
Yeah, and there's a couple of racing games that I've played where it's really cool. But I'll play it for a few minutes, and I'll feel myself getting kind of hot, a little queasy, and
there was that one demo disc, and there was, I think, some kind of like game where it was like on rails, like a roller coaster or something. I forget
Rush
what
of
it
Blood,
was.
I think is what it was.
And as soon as it started, I just said nope.
No, and the other thing, the thing that developers are going to have to work out is the locomotion of the game, walking around. Like one thing that the developers seem to have done to try and correct motion sickness is they'll kind of teleport you around the map. But Resident Evil doesn't do that. Like, you're actually moving around. And in this Farpoint game, the first-person shooter I'm talking about, you're actually moving around on your own. Mm-hmm. So I may not be able to play it for long before I get queasy and sick and have to stop. But I think one thing that we're going to see at E3 this year is you're going to see Sony's continued support of the product. People are fearful. They've sold just about 1 million units, which I think is around what Sony was hoping to do, which, if you think about how many PlayStation 4s are out there in the wild, there's something like 40 million, if I'm not mistaken. So
I really don't know. Yeah,
40-to-1 attach rate's not that impressive. But it is kind of a specialty item. It's not cheap. It costs probably more than the PlayStation 4 itself.
But it's the cheapest version, as far as what are the other ones?
Yeah, if you want to get in on the VR experience, it is the cheapest. You have the HTC Vive, which I believe you played.
What were the other options?
Oculus
I'm trying to remember
Rift.
now. Yeah, it wasn't the Oculus Rift. I think it was the Vive that I played.
Yeah, the Vive is the one where you said, like, I believe you were on a castle wall or something, and you had arrows.
There was a couple like archery games. They were great. I loved them. Yeah.
So it's a really neat thing. It's not like VR back in the 90s and early 2000s when they were really trying to push VR. It was that was much more of a gimmick. It's not really a gimmick anymore, but Now it just comes to the time where people like myself who've invested in the PSVR, people who've invested in the Oculus Rift, we're beta testing a lot of these ideas. What works, what doesn't work, and now I think in year 2 of the PlayStation VR, you're going to see some new games come out. Like you're going to see some more AAA experiences like Resident Evil, I think. I know that they're looking to port some successful Vive games, their first-person shooters, over to PSVR, which, now that they have the aim controller, which is what I'm going to use for that far point, it kind of opens up things a little bit more. One nice thing about the Vive, and I guess the Oculus Rift as well, is the peripherals, the controllers are a lot nicer.
Yeah.
Really, with PlayStation, you're using old technology. You're using the little controllers with the balls on them. It's really like 5-year-old technology.
It really felt like, because you're holding 2 controllers, and some games, you would pick up a gun or whatever, and you could like look at it, and it felt like you're holding that thing because you are holding something in real life.
Yep.
And so it was neat.
It plays tricks on your minds, So now that I'm actually going to be physically holding with 2 hands like a weapon, I think it's going to further immerse myself, and I'm really excited to try that. So I think we're going to see some continued support of PlayStation VR. I don't think that's going to be something that's going to die in its second year. I think it's going to be. I think they're going to keep moving along. I think we're going to see a port of Smash Brothers on the Switch.
Yeah, most likely.
I don't think that I'm not going to set the world on fire with that prediction, but with the success of Mario
Kart 8 Deluxe, and I'm sure
they're just going to keep porting
follow
in those,
suit.
Yeah, they're just going to keep porting in those Wii U games, and people are going to buy them because Nintendo fans are going to buy anything with Nintendo in the title. You got the added benefit of being a completely total modable game.
I mean, it's a great game.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
So we're gonna see that. You'll probably get a handful of new characters, I bet. Maybe some of the levels that were exclusive to 3DS that you didn't get in the Wii U version.
Oh, I actually forgot that there were different levels. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the deluxe version you'll probably get all the levels into one package. So I do believe you're going to see that. The Switch is going to have another port on its hand, and probably another big hit on their hands. I think the Switch will also get the Virtual Console news out of the way.
Yeah, been waiting on that.
Everybody's
it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. It's there's been a Nintendo Virtual Console for every system since the Wii. A little bit later this time around. I don't know if it has anything to do with Nintendo.
But there'll be a paid service though.
Yeah, there's a paid service, which we know a little bit more about. $20 for the entire year, or...
Yeah, it was like $3.99 or something.
Well, you could pay for a month or 3 months. It's kind of like the PlayStation Plus model, where you can do it per month, or you can do it for a whole year. And I believe for the whole entire year, it's only like $19.99. Yeah. So you'll get that, and they also have released some information as far as like games that you can get with the service, because of course with Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus you get a handful of free games every month.
Hopefully there'll be GameCube games.
Yeah, hopefully there'll be some GameCube games. That was the rumor. I know that Eurogamer had a story come out a few months ago saying that there would be GameCube games. Of course, the sleuths out there, people who are smart about the technical side of like why a game could play or not play well on a game system like the Switch is there's no analog controller. The buttons are not analog, they're digital. And the GameCube controllers had the analog buttons.
Yeah, especially those triggers.
The triggers were analog, and where if you're playing a game where you're squeezing in that sensitive motion.
There's the C stick, which I guess you do have a right analog stick.
Yeah, you got a left and a right
that
analog
could do the
to play
C
with.
stick, but
I think they'll find a way to work around it.
It can happen. It just may not be perfect.
Maybe we'll see some Wii ports, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's not impossible to think that we could get some Wii games in Virtual Console, though probably not.
They could. I imagine that you could just take the 2 controllers.
Yeah, you've already got motion
and
controls.
Yeah, and so you could hold one like a nunchuck and hold the other like you were pointing it like the remote. So
yeah, so I think we're definitely going to get a Virtual Console announcement. They'll flesh out that whole plan. I really don't think they're going to go past E3 because people keep demanding it. Nintendo fans love to rebuy the old classic games and bring it with them on the systems. I for one don't really care that I keep having to buy it. It doesn't bother me. I know some people get upset that they have to buy it over and over
I
again.
have bought the original Super Mario Brothers countless times, and I'm sure I'll buy it again at some point.
Absolutely, because I love the idea of being able to take it with me to work. And you can do it on a 3DS, but the Switch is so much nicer than the 3DS. The screen, the 720 resolution.
If it comes out on Switch, I'm sure I'm going to buy it. It's
and 2 more Insta buys right here. We're definitely going to be picking those up. So you're going to get Virtual Console. Just moving over to Microsoft, I think Scorpio, or whatever it is they're going to call it, I'm sure it's not going to be Scorpio.
Oh yeah, just code name.
Yeah, codename Scorpio. They'll any predictions as to what you think they'll call it?
No, and like Xbox 2.
Well, they went Xbox, and then they went Xbox 360,
and then Xbox
One. They
One.
went back to Xbox One, and now what are they going to do? Is it going to be like Xbox One 2 or something like that?
I don't know.
But yeah,
Xbox 1000.
Or will they go the PlayStation route and just call it like the? They won't call it a Pro, obviously, because that's what PlayStation's already done. But maybe they'll call it like the Xbox Elite or Ultimate or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to give it the next iteration of like it won't be the Xbox 2 because they're iterating on the power of it. Like I don't think it's like the next big Microsoft thing, even though they need it to be. They should just market it as the next Xbox and not put a Pro tag on the end of it.
Maybe they'll just say, "Fine, we give up Xbox 3."
Yeah, well, they've definitely lost. PlayStation's way ahead of them. Nintendo's the new kid on the block. They're killing it. And that's not my prediction. Scorpio's for sure going to be there, but I think you're going to see Crackdown 3, which is an exclusive from the Microsoft that we've seen a couple years in a row at E3, like little bits and pieces.
Was it Crackdown that they tricked everybody into buying because it had a demo of Halo 3?
It was. That was the reason why most people bought it, is you got an early beta.
I didn't fall for it.
I did, and I'll tell you what, I really liked Crackdown.
But I liked Halo 3 though.
Crackdown, I thought, was a really fun game. I got a lot of hours out of playing it, and it felt like a real like kind of baity thing to do. You're like, all right,
I remember when that was announced. I was like,
sons of bitches.
I guess I'm not gonna play the Halo 3 demo because I ain't buying it.
All right. Well, you missed out on a really fun game. Crackdown was a big game.
I never did play it.
A lot of fun. I really got into it, and Crackdown 2 came out because I guess Microsoft thought they had a pretty big hit on their hands, and Crackdown 2 really wasn't very good. They went in a whole another direction. They were like zombies, and I guess because zombies sell. I don't know, whatever.
Zombies always sell.
But yeah, the first Crackdown was this kind of futuristic. You were the good guys, the cops, and you were going around this big sandbox world, and you had all the powered up weapons, and you yourself would get powered up to where you could run really fast or jump really high. You could take out whole mobs of gangsters like in a whole neighborhood. You would get so powerful. It was a lot of fun. So Crackdown 3, I think, is a game that Microsoft has kind of been like missing their exclusives here a little bit lately. I think Gears of War 4 was, I'm sure it was successful for him, but it didn't light the world on fire.
Yeah, I mean, I bought it, and aside from playing it online, like Horde mode a little bit, I haven't even started.
I still have yet to play the campaign, and I'd still be willing.
I want to. I absolutely want to.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get around to it.
Other things happen, and I haven't even started it.
Yeah.
It's still actually sitting on top of my entertainment center because I'm keeping it visible so that
so you don't forget it.
Yeah.
Is it still in cellophane? No, it's not still in cellophane.
No, I have cut it up. Well, yeah, because I have played Horde mode. But
right,
yeah, I just
and Horde mode's fun. It felt, I was getting some of those fun,
yeah, good time.
It had its hooks in me for a little while.
Yeah, so I like it. It just, I don't know if it's me or if that's just how the world is going. But
yeah, it's the fourth game, and I think it was better than 3. It felt a little more fun like 2, a little bit better than 3. But then there was
2 seemed like it was just like super long, like the campaign mode.
yeah.
Like it just dragged
It
on.
was like more. It was like the sequel thing where you take what was really good and you just give everybody 10 times the amount of that. So I think we'll see Crackdown 3. I know that Microsoft has. They were using it almost like as a techie demo kind of thing. Like they were using cloud computing to make all of the environments fully destructible. That's kind of a big thing that game developers like to tout. Like, oh, it's fully destructible. The environments, anything can be blown up. But you've yet to see any gameplay whatsoever. And then it feels like it's been about a year since anybody's even seen anything for Crackdown 3. So I think we're going to see a Crackdown 3. Probably going to be a situation where it's going to be heavily promoted with Scorpio or whatever it is they call it. So those are like my Metroid. I think we're gonna get finally. I think we're gonna get a Metroid announcement of some kind, whether it's gonna be a 2D Metroid or a Prime like 3D Metroid. Either one will be fine.
Everybody's been praying for a new Metroid Prime for forever, but personally, I would prefer the 2D.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody's wondering what Retro's been up to, and Retro hasn't released a game since around 2013, 2014 when they did Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. And
I couldn't get into that. It seemed like a really good game, and I played it, but
it's an excellent game.
I couldn't get into it though.
It's a lot of fun. It's the most fun I've had in a Donkey Kong game probably since the original.
Actually, I'm not even thinking of Tropical Freeze. I'm thinking of the one that came out on
Wii.
No, Tropical Freeze was the Wii, wasn't it, or was that the Wii U?
Wii U.
But I'm thinking of the one on the 3DS, Returns.
Oh, well, that's the same studio made that. That was a really excellent game too.
They came out at but like very close.
Yeah.
Around the same time.
Yeah, they did come around really close together.
But yeah, I couldn't get into that.
Yeah,
one.
Retro did also another Donkey Kong Country game that was, I think, came out on Wii, and it was kind of a big deal and sold pretty well. So really, Retro's been making nothing but Donkey Kong Country games for a while. They were making the Metroid games for a long time. They did Prime 1, 2, and 3, and then that was kind of their bread and butter for a while. And then they've been making one of the other big Nintendo franchises. So maybe Retro's up to something completely different. It's not going to be Metroid, but I think it's going to be Metroid.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. This is probably the second or third E3 in a row where people have just been convinced
that there's gonna be a Metroid announcement. They just know there has to be.
Yeah, and with the Switch, the Switch is coming out really with guns blazing. With obviously Breath of the Wild was huge, massive hit. Zelda franchise, boom, they got that out of the way. They said, well, we're going to release Mario Odyssey. That's going to come out in 2017 as well, right at the end of the year. So boom, like 2 out of probably 3 of the biggest franchises out there. They right in the first year.
Just need Metroid now.
Yeah, now they just need a Pokemon game and a Metroid game,
which they just announced Pokken.
Yeah. Yeah, they had that Nintendo Direct, or the Pokemon. Yeah,
it's just, like we were talking about with the Smash Brothers. It's just
yet another port.
Here's a game we've already got. Let's port it over.
I was thinking, I had a thought that people who didn't buy a Wii U are probably loving the Switch that much more because the Wii U didn't sell very well. Yeah. 13, 14 million units out there. By far Nintendo's biggest miss, especially after the Wii, which everybody had a Wii.
It was just bad marketing.
Bad marketing.
People didn't understand.
Yeah, they didn't really. Yeah, this is pretty much it. They didn't really understand. Like, why should I get a Wii U when I had a Wii?
They felt like it was the same thing, and it just was a controller, like a new controller for the same thing.
Yeah, it just didn't hit, which is really a shame because I think we both would agree that the Wii U had some really good games come out for it. All it was really missing was the big titles.
It had so much more potential than what they actually used too. But
I mean, it got a Mario Kart game, which was big, and it got
because it had that touch screen that you could have used played like a Zelda game that had like the map on it. And
that would have been really cool. Think of the
Wind Waker like HD remake it utilized that, probably the best I've seen of any other game, but. It had potential that never got tapped into, I think.
Untapped potential with the Wii U that you're now, I think, probably seeing in spades with the Switch. The Switch is taking what I think a lot of people would have liked to have seen with the Wii U, a fully portable, controller with touch screens and the better graphics, the HD resolution graphics, and you're getting it even better.
That was one of the neat features of the Wii U, is that some games that you could either play on the TV or play on the tablet, where they took that one step further with the Switch, and it's just absolutely that you can take this tablet anywhere.
Yeah, it's no longer tethered by 10, 15 feet or whatever.
The bathroom,
Yeah, so you could take it all the way to the bathroom, and then it would disconnect on you. But, so few people bought the Wii U. Now people are buying the Switch left and right. They can't keep them in the stores. Everybody wants one. You're getting all these excellent Wii U ports, and you're also getting these games that were designed for the Switch.
Yeah, so
and you're getting the games that were designed for Wii U that were going to come out for Wii U that completely got bypassed, i.e. Zelda, that went right to Switch. And it came out for Wii U as well. But
it did. They did the exact same thing they did with Twilight Princess. It was being
dangled.
They it was in the development phase, and it was going to come out on the previous system, but then things switched over, and
things switched over. But
and they promise you at first that that's not going to happen, that's exactly what happens. And
well, it seems to me like Breath of the Wild was supposed to come out a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think it got delayed quite a bit.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that final year was Nintendo just waving the white flag saying, we give up. The Wii U was a complete and utter failure. We're going to put all our eggs in this new basket. And it seems to be working out for them really well. So yeah, those are my predictions. I think those are pretty safe predictions, with the exception maybe of Metroid, which still could be a pie in the sky. They say that the Metroid games don't traditionally actually sell really well. That it's just the hardcore fans that
want it. I say I buy them, but I did never buy Metroid Prime 3. I don't know why.
It might have just been, too much more. That once you get to the third iteration of any series.
I did end up getting it with the trilogy.
For the Wii?
Yeah, trilogy on the Wii, and so I ended up getting it that way.
With the updated graphics.
Yeah, so that was and the motion control. I mean, playing Metro Prime with that motion control on the Wii, it's great.
So you like the motion control?
Well,
see, I always wanted to avoid it. I was never really
with some first-person shooter games like Metroid Prime. I really liked it, but it can be gimmicky.
What did you think about playing the Zelda game?
No.
You didn't like having to swing
No, see, it's just not a fit. There's where they're forcing in a gimmick, and it just wasn't a fit. It was better with Skyward Sword, where the angles that you could cut better, but still, no. It was a gimmick.
Speaking of things I would like to see, if they're going to continue with the HD remakes of Zelda games, I'd like to see a Skyward Sword come out, because I didn't really ever play that. That was a game I wholly skipped.
It's a good game.
So those are the games that I fully expect to see, if not a full a gameplay trailer, maybe a teaser announcement trailer, something even a logo And that's kind of what by the way, for a Metro game, I think we'll probably just see very much a teaser.
Yeah,
coming 2018.
Just let the people know it's coming, but not really show anything.
Chill out, everybody. Metroid's coming. We hear you. We've given you Zelda and Mario. Let us sit on a few of our cherished franchises for years to come, so we can continue to sell Switches. But what we're going to do now is we're going to do something a little different, maybe a little more interesting, more fun. Is we're going to we're going to share with you guys some wishes.
What we'd like to see, but probably just aren't going to happen.
Yeah, these are things that could make sense, but video game developers don't always do the things that make the most sense.
And this is one thing that I do think is still in the works, but they're not going to show it yet, is Tekken Cross Street Fighter. Ever since Street Fighter Cross Tekken came out, it was announced that, just like SNK and Capcom, when they both made their versions, there was Capcom versus SNK, and there was SNK versus Capcom.
A lot of them, yeah.
That, each company had their own version of it. Capcom had their version, Street Fighter Cross Tekken. I did not like it.
What did you like about it?
I did not
If
like.
you got time.
I did not like the way that Capcom represented Namco's Tekken characters. They did not feel right to me. I just the Street Fighter characters were just straight out of Street Fighter 4, so
So they didn't really do their
there's
homework.
nothing different there. But the Namco characters just did not feel right to me. So ever since then, I've been very interested to see how Namco handles the Street Fighter characters with Tekken Cross Street Fighter. And, and years and years and years go by, and every now and then they'll throw out a little nugget and say, hey, just so you know, it is still coming. We are still working on it. So we'll see. But, and then now...
What would you say the odds are that you would see a game like that announced, like percentage-wise, at this year's E3?
At this year's E3?
Yeah.
Probably none, because Tekken 7 just came out. And they had Akuma in Tekken 7. So we have got a taste now of how Namco will handle the Capcom characters. And I bought Tekken 7 and I've played it, and I like Akuma. They've done well.
Good.
So it just makes me think even more. I can't wait to see what they do with the rest of them. But like I say, Tekken 7 just came out. They're not going to make an announcement like
They're
that
not going
right
to
away.
cannibalize their own sales of a game that just came out.
They've got to give Tekken 7 a little bit of time, run its course, and then they'll make the announcement. But I think it's still coming.
Yeah, that would be probably a 2018 game, like you said. But it would be neat, if they wouldn't just pop out with some DLC or anything, would they? Adding more characters.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe throw in some more Street Fighter characters into the Tekken storyline. I don't know. But it was neat though, and I haven't gone through the story mode yet. But they've really, Akuma is a part of the Tekken story.
Okay.
Yeah, he's really a part of the story mode for Tekken 7.
They've really weaved him into the game.
They have, yes, into the lore and everything. So it's cool.
Maybe we'll do a let's play on that, and you could whip my butt.
Yeah.
Because I am really not a Tekken player. I can mash buttons pretty well, but much more of a 2D street fighting game person.
Yeah, and I'm not as much as Street Fighter, but I like the Tekken games.
Yeah,
So.
you got pretty decent with some of the Tekken games, the Teshima games.
Really, Tekken 2 was the peak, though, for me. And I played 3 quite a bit.
What about Soul Calibur?
Again, 2 I think was the peak.
Yeah.
But, it depends on how you say 2. Soul Calibur was the sequel to Soul Blade. And
That's right.
So that's the one I'm actually thinking of, not the game that's called Soul Calibur 2.
Right.
But that was the peak for me.
So that would be cool if we did see something like that, but we probably won't, which is why we're saying wish list things. Yeah. And since you've given one of your wishes, I'm going to go ahead and throw out one of mine. One that you may start to go a little blank when you want to hear me talking about it, but I would really, really like to see a new NCAA football game. It's been a few years. For those of you who didn't know, that there was a big courtroom battle between a college basketball player. His name is Ed O'Bannon. Played for UCLA in the mid-1990s. In around 1999, well after he graduated, the digital version of him, same height, same weight, his number, UCLA on the front, same skin tone. For all intents and purposes, it was him. But college players don't get any of that money. They're not allowed to get any money. They're just there. They get a scholarship to play. So there was always this weird kind of, like the school could license the teams. The NCAA could license the schools and the mascots and the arenas, but they were not allowed to use the actual players' names because they are amateurs.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, long story short, Ed O'Bannon takes this to court and ends up suing Electronic Arts for a lot of money. So they stopped making all of the NCAA football and basketball games, which is crazy because for about 20 years, every single year, there was a football and basketball game.
I remember, seeing the games come out, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like a Madden, like there'd be that year, and it would be NCAA football. Well, they've settled out of court, they've paid their money, and it's been a few years, and I would really like to see them return to like they've made things right monetarily for the players that were in these games, and now I'd like to see them work something out to where we can get back to the NCAA football and basketball every year, because I really missed it. I enjoy the Maddens and I like the NBA 2Ks, but we live in a college town, so we really enjoy March Madness and college football. So even though I do like Madden, I do like those other pro games. I want to get back to playing this year's version of whatever college games are out there. I really want to get back to that. So I don't think it'll happen. It probably never will come back, but it's been a few years. The dust has settled. They've paid the money. I think that it was like a $40 million lawsuit or something like that, which is a lot of money. But those games also made a lot of money. So money's out there. They could come back.
A nice wish. It
is just that. What about you? Any other wishes?
Something else that it'd be neat, but I don't think it's going to happen. That this year is the 30th anniversary for Street Fighter. So
of the first Street Fighter.
Of the first Street Fighter, not Street Fighter 2, right. But just Street Fighter as a name. And since Street Fighter 1 was such an awful, terrible game. I think it would be neat.
Did it come out for the TurboGrafx 16?
The CD version of it, yes.
Yeah. Never played it. Not even an emulator.
Or was it? Yeah, I think it was TurboGrafx. I think it was right.
I think it was the TurboGrafx.
But
nobody played.
And they called it Fighting Street. But it was Street Fighter 1.
But it was before the craze of Street Fighter 2.
You didn't really know what it was. And I remember that, I think Street Fighter 2 had like just come out like recently or something. And
91, 92.
Because I remember kind of being pointed to it that's where it all started. And like, oh wow, yeah, that's Ryu, and Sagat's the boss. Sagat's the last guy, And so
recognize this guy.
That's really where I first kind of heard about it.
It's got to be a good game, right?
But so somewhere down the line, I actually got to play it, and it's terrible.
Oh my god! I'm
so
surprised.
If I think if they like did some kind of a remake, like remaster Street Fighter 1, like new engine and everything, and just redo it all.
Oh, you mean like a HD kind of remaster and reimagining of that game, but
a reimagining?
Better gameplay.
Yeah, a reimagining, because you can't just put pretty graphics over the top of it like they did, like they did for Ultra Street Fighter 2, where they just they put the new artwork over top. Right. You cannot do that because it's just an awful game.
It just wouldn't be an interesting game, even if it looked better.
But if they remade it, and because there are characters in there that you haven't ever seen in the newer Street Fighter games, like. Who else in there?
There was a lot of characters.
Joe, who's Joe? No, Geki, that ninja Geki. I mean, he'd be great to see again in a game. And there's like a Chinese guy like Lee, I think, and
of course, he's real original with the names there.
Oh, and Mike. Mike is actually Balrog. I guarantee you that Mike is Balrog. But because of having to switch the names around and everything, they've like officially said that they're two different people now, and so Mike and Balrog are two different people. But when it all started, there's no Mike was intended to be Balrog.
Do you think we'll ever see like a collection of Street Fighter games?
Well, I mean, we already have.
I mean, like a Street Fighter and a Street Fighter 2 and a 3 in a pack, like a single game.
Well, yeah, typically what they'll do is like an Alpha collection and a Street Fighter 2 collection. Yeah, I don't know if they would do like a collection with
like an anthology or something.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Because then it would fit nicely into that. You'd like to have it, you'd want to see it, but you maybe not necessarily pay for the whole game of that. But they could include it in with some. Touch it up a bit.
Yeah, and I think they could do it in a way like how the original Art of Fighting did, where if you played the story mode of Art of Fighting, you could only pick as either Ryo or Robert. and you play through the story, and you would beat these other people as you're making your way to the last boss. And Street Fighter 1, because you could only play as either Ryu or Ken, could be like the same way, that if you're playing, they could make kind of a story mode and just do that, but have like a versus mode, and for the first time ever be able to play as all the different people you could never play as before. I think that'd be really cool.
30 years. It's been time. Let's let Street Fighter 1 have its due.
I mean, that'd be cool.
Wouldn't that be awesome if they like dropped that bomb?
I don't expect it, but man, what if they did?
Yeah,
that would
that's
be
what
ridiculous.
this segment's all about, is wishes. These are wishes. Throw Street Fighter 1 a little bit of love. It's been 30 years, man. It's also been 30 years since the original Castlevania game
I mean,
came
if
out.
you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? Since it's 30th anniversary.
They're going to be 40 probably. And I have another wish, although it's, of all of these wishes, this is probably the more likely of things to happen, but Nintendo seems to more than not moved away from the motion controls. I think they're trying to distance themselves from Wii and Wii U and the motion control thing, even though that some of the motion control still exists within some of the games. It's not a big selling point.
They seem to really be pushing that 1-2 switch, but
more for the HD Rumble than anything else. Like,
I've just not been interested in that.
It looks terrible. If that game were like $15-$20, I might pick it up.
It's one of those party games that when you're with a group of people, sure, I'm sure it's fun, but it's also then after that's done, you're done with it.
It's interesting that you mentioned the 1-2 switch game, because most people agree, you and I agree also, that should have been a packing game.
Oh yeah.
And one of the most successful packing games, and really a Nintendo tradition, is to include a really strong title that showed the technology off really well, and it included as a packing game. Wii Sports was a humongous success for the Nintendo Wii. Came with it. We still play it to this day.
Now, to be fair though, putting a pack-in game is kind of been hit and miss with Nintendo, because they did not with the Nintendo 64. Because a lot of people act like
there weren't a lot of titles to choose from. They couldn't just necessarily give away.
Yeah.
I think they had Mario 64 and Pilot Wings.
Yeah, Nintendo did have a pack-in. Super Nintendo did have a pack-in. Nintendo 64 did not. GameCube did not, right?
No, it did not.
Yeah, we bought Star Wars.
That was around the time when you stopped getting 2 controllers in a packing game.
Yeah.
You just got the system and a controller and the power brick, and then you'd have to buy a launch game that came along with it, which is fine. But not to stray too far off topic, I would like to see the return of the Wii Sports. But of course, they couldn't call it Wii, but they could call it like Switch Sports or Nintendo Sports, something.
And with the Wii, I think it was necessary to have that pack in.
Yeah. It showed off what they were really going for with the motion controls superbly.
Yeah.
Maybe no other game touched it since.
It'd be interesting to see how it would have done if it had no pack in, because people would be like, "What is this? I don't understand."
Probably not as well, but the Wii was such an interesting console because it was so accessible to all ages. You could play it. Younger kids could play it. Our kids, like grown men our age, we were in our 20s or early 30s, or maybe when they came out. I don't know. We're old.
Retirement homes play Wii bowling.
Yeah, well,
still do.
Yeah, I mean, people in their 80s and 90s are playing the Wii. Bowling in the games, like it was accessible to everybody, and like you said, I mean, if that didn't come packed with the Nintendo Wii, it probably would not have sold as well. It did have a Zelda game to sell along with it, which was big, but the Wii Sports was something that people played. Everybody played it.
That they stole from GameCube.
Yeah, they brought it along. GameCube got it too, but as we've discussed, that was held back for the Wii. I'm sure they didn't have any idea that the Wii Sports game was going to be such a massive thing. And then it wasn't just Wii Sports. They came out with a couple other titles too. There was like Wii Resort, which
later
was
on
fun,
when they refined the motion controls.
That's right. And it never really... I still would go back to the old Wii Sports game. I never really played the Wii Resort, which I think they had a more robust bowling game in that too.
I never really noticed the difference in the bowling, but I like the archery in the resort. That was fun.
So it was a big title for the Wii. I'd like to see I'd like to see like my Logan get it, to be able to play, the new sports titles. Like he plays the Wii bowling and the tennis game. Like whenever we do our like little church tournament thing or whatever, like I'll pull it out of the mothballs and hook it up, and we'll play the old games. And he really gets into them. So I'd like to see what they could do with the Switch versions of those games. And you can always detach the Joy-Cons and use them like Wiimotes in a way. Like they still have the ability to do motion control. So I'd like to see a return of that franchise. I'd like to see a sports game because it would be perfect for that. So anyways, those are my wishes. Those are 4 pretty interesting wishes. None of them will probably happen. No. Like with the NCAA thing, like I said, the money, for legal reasons, that'll probably never happen. Capcom is not gonna.
What happened to Capcom, man?
Well, that's a whole show, man.
That's another story too.
Gosh, we really could go down the rabbit hole of how once Capcom was one of the greatest third-party publishers.
Glorious. And not so much now.
Konami too. They were another golden, could do no wrong, and now they're in the same boat. They still publish games. I'd like to throw out a E3 prediction that it's maybe I could have brought up previously, but and I just thought about it. It's probably why I didn't bring it up until just now. But the Capcoms, and we spoke of Capcom, the collection of the Disney Afternoon collection.
Right.
I think we're probably going to see that come out for the Switch. You'll see a Switch release.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because all of those games were Nintendo games originally anyway. Yeah. It kind of blows me away that they didn't originally come out
for the
Switch. I guess it was because a lot of developers were treating the Switch like they were doing a wait and see. They weren't going to, dedicate a whole lot of money and time to porting games to that console because they just thought it could be another Wii U. So I think it's pretty safe to say you're going to see possibly that Mega Man Collection 2 that's going to be coming out. You may see a release for the Switch for that as well. I haven't read a whole lot about that, but I'm assuming it's the Mega Man games that came out later that were...
Wait, like Mega Man X?
No, like 8, 9, 10.
Oh, like the PlayStation.
Yeah,
oh,
the ones that were like developed later on in life.
Well, and then, was it 9? That was the NES style? No,
9 and 10 were NES style.
Man, 7 was Super Nintendo. 8 was PlayStation. 9, I guess it was 9 and 10 that came out on like Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 that were like NES style. I lose track of them anymore.
You're right. Well, it's such a long span of games, like because PlayStation did really pick up that mantle.
But yeah, when they do those collections, I think it usually will go from like 1 to 6, and then 7 up, it gets forgotten. So yeah, they need to do those.
It's a weird time for the Mega Man games too, because PlayStation also was putting out those like 3D Mega Man games. Like there was the big 3D.
Oh, Legends.
Yeah.
Well, that's different beast altogether. Those are like RPG style games.
Yeah, they were like almost like mech games too, in a bit, or maybe I'm thinking of it.
Well, and there were like the Game Boy Advance.
Point is, they weren't Mega Man games. Like I never looked at those as Mega Man games. Then they got back to the classic, 2D style Mega Man games. So those games are going to be released in a new collection. So I think we'll probably see those on the Switch too. So those are our E3 predictions and our wishes. Hope you've enjoyed them.
Here's an idea. Ooh, why don't we try a good old-fashioned stoning, eh? I'd kill to be stoned right now. Gets the crowd involved, doesn't it? I should like to speak to Victor and disembowel him. I should like to speak to Victor. Pardon me, I'm not one to complain normally, but this basket's full of heads.
The Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales. Yeah, we saw that, and in true BitGeek fashion, we're reviewing it weeks later of the actual release, so we can not worry about spoiling this movie.
Yeah, life happens, and we didn't see it the first week, so we saw it the second week.
Yeah,
but
we'll be doing the same thing with Wonder Woman. It looks like
just share thoughts on it.
Yeah, I want to say that they did the original trilogy, the Pirates of the Caribbean, with those characters, and it was a big success. And then they some time passed, and they were like, well, we want to make some more of these movies, so we got to get Johnny Depp. So they get Jack Sparrow. They didn't necessarily lock down, Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley.
Yeah,
so,
and they didn't even play, spoiler alert that they are in the movie,
Yeah.
but very little, and that's okay though, because you at least it starts out referencing back to them, and like the whole movie is about
Their kid.
and Will Turner's fate taking over Davy Jones's position. That's how the movie starts.
Don't you see I'm cursed to this ship?
That's why I'm here. I think I know a way to break your curse. To free you from the Dutchman.
Henry, no.
I've read about a treasure that holds all the power of the sea. The trident of Poseidon can break your curse.
Because their son wants to free him of that curse.
Yeah, watching this movie, as it was wrapping up, I really had the same. I felt that this movie was more of a follow-up of the third movie than the last movie was the follow-up of the third movie. Like you said, Stranger Tides felt like a bit of a one-off. This one feels like a continuation as a bit. The continuity kind of stretched out a little bit more from the third to this one. And I think that's why I really like this one more than I like Stranger Tides, is because of that.
Yeah, I was happy with it because it really tied things together, I felt like.
Yeah, so you got the I forget the kid's name now, Will Turner's son.
Yeah, I forget his son's name too.
Anyways,
Turner.
Young Turner. We're not going to break the movie down like we did with Covenant, but they found a way to get Jack back in the fold. They're going to go out and find this trident, this treasure that's going to release all of the curses of the sea, including Will Turner from the Flying Dutchman. He wanted to be back. He wanted his dad back. Obviously, a kid would want to get their dad back. So
break
right
him
off
of the
that,
curse.
Yeah, so you're on board with this kid right off, and it doesn't hurt that the kid too is pretty likable. He's got all those same kind of. He has the nobility of Will Turner, totally Will Turner's kid, and they even bring in a girl, I forget her name too, the horologist. See, we're already forgetting the characters' names, but it doesn't matter. She played her character pretty well. She served her purpose.
I liked her.
She was a strong character. She wasn't like just a damsel in distress. In fact, she really was like, took charge a lot.
Yeah, very, very strong woman character that really played against that she was of science and of that time period, that, in fact, well, you're a witch, because
part of the story
because you're a smart girl.
The Brits are kind of tracking her down throughout the movie because she is a witch, and they're also trying.
Well, they think this.
Though they think she's a witch, right? Sorry.
She's not.
She's a woman of science. Obviously, we're meant to know better, but back then, if you were a little different, you were a witch, and she was most definitely different. In fact, she even has a scene where she walks into that guy's telescope room or whatever, and he says something like, "No one's handled my," I forget what he called it.
A woman has touched my telescope.
No one has handled mine. I forget the line. It was cheeky, and there was a lot of that humor in this movie, which I dig.
My calculations are precise and true. I'm not only an astronomer, I'm also a horologist.
No shame in that, dear.
It wasn't it wasn't like senseless dick and fart jokes that a teenage boy would really. They were towing that line, but very much acceptable.
But my favorite line of the movie though is they're talking about they're referencing back to Barbossa's character and how the time has passed and he's kind of like taken over the seas. He's got like a fleet of 10 ships now and all this wealth and everything, and he's this feared pirate now because he's taken over Blackbeard's ship, the I forget its name now, but Queen Anne's Revenge, I think is its name. But anyway, the rumors have it that he has 18-pound cannonballs, and Jack, it was the funniest line in the movie. Jack is like, a one-legged man with 18-pound balls? No wonder he walks funny.
Yeah, that got a big laugh, and so the humor was totally there. I thought the action was really good. And to be honest though, I was a little bit iffy on the action because the scene where he's robbing the safe and it's dragging that.
No, that was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Fun fun ridiculousness.
Yeah, it was like, like in a sequel, in a franchise, they're gonna try to one up the scenes from the previous movie. That one didn't really work for me. All the other action scenes really worked for me.
They've done silly things before, like in which was it 2 that they're fighting on the was it a water wheel that was spinning around?
Right.
They've done such things.
And that really worked for me, but since that was so good, like they have to try and up. The house being drugged through the streets of the day, it was very much like all right,
And it was rather long too.
It did go on for a long time.
It went on for a while.
That cost a lot of money.
It was fun.
It was fun, and that's the point of the movie. The point of this review is I'm recommending it. I think it's really good. It to me was up there. It stands along with all the other first 3 pirate movies.
I definitely enjoyed it.
Whereas I felt Stranger Tides was okay for the moment.
Yeah, and I enjoyed Stranger Tides, but it felt like a one-off. It wasn't the same. Yeah. And this went back to that.
Yes, when they kind of corrected.
Yeah.
They righted the ship, no pun intended. I thought I really liked that the ways they worked in Will Turner and Elizabeth Shaw. Although I thought they could have given maybe Elizabeth Shaw a little something more to do in the movie, she did just sort of come in at the end to kiss Will at the very end of the movie.
Elizabeth Shaw is Prometheus.
Oh wait, you're right.
What's her name?
Keira Knightley.
Keira Knightley. Her name is Elizabeth which now would be Elizabeth Turner.
Okay.
I don't remember what her name was before.
My point being is she didn't have a whole lot to do. It's not that Will had a ton to do, but at least he served a little bit more of a purpose as far as his son.
Yeah, I mean he didn't need to be there. He was the goal. To free of the curse, right. And so he shows up at the end because he's now been freed of the curse.
Yeah, and Elizabeth just shows up because she's so happy that he's free from the curse.
Exactly, and so it was a touching moment, and everything tied together.
Right, and there was the little scene at the end of the movie after the credits where they were lying in bed canoodling. And spoiler, they kind of teased
that maybe Davy Jones is still around.
Yeah, which. Since we bring that up, one thing that a little bit confused me, and I think maybe confused you a little bit too, was since they freed the curse they broke the trident, they freed all the curses of the sea, including the Dutchman. The Dutchman's back. Everyone's human again.
Davy Jones, you didn't really see him, but it looked like shadows.
Well, you saw the tentacle.
Oh, you did. You saw his claw.
You saw his claw,
and you saw the tentacles and shadows.
Yeah, and you saw the little
So it looked like still his form, and that's the big question: is all curses were broken, so why is he still in this form?
Right.
I don't know.
I guess they'll try and explain that.
I don't know. But the other thing that really got me wondering too, then, because they really made a big deal in the third movie at World's End that there must be somebody in the role of Davy Jones's role that ferries the dead to the other world. And so if Turner is broken of this curse, who is doing this job now, and what happens if somebody dies? What happens to the dead? Nobody's ferrying them to the other world. So does nobody die?
So a statute of limitations, a date period.
Yeah. So that kind of raised a question, what happens? Because it was kind of in the lore that that position there must be that position.
Right.
So I don't know.
And they had to have something for the third movie, I guess, or the sixth movie, I guess, if you want to count it all together. But I think they're considering this a second trilogy.
I think there's supposed to be more.
They got to save Davy Jones for that, so they couldn't necessarily turn him back to human. They gotta he's got to be.
So, questions to be answered for sure.
Questions to be answered for sure. It's fine. I'm okay with it. It didn't ruin the movie in any way.
And really, I think the only other thing I kind of wondered about while watching the movie was that when you first meet up with Barbossa and you see, and he's on, and I'm assuming, I don't know if it was clearly shown that it was Blackbeard's ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, It might have, because I know a lot of times they would show the name like on the back of the ship and you'd see
Right.
it, but I don't remember for sure
I don't remember
that was there or
seeing
not.
either.
That it was shown in Stranger Tides that it had like supernatural powers, and that Blackbeard's sword, you could control the rigging and everything with his sword, and he never utilized that.
And we even saw the sword in action.
We saw the sword, and I was very happy that they then did go back and reference it, and they freed the Black Pearl
Yeah,
with
the
it.
pearl is back.
But
That was neat.
that was like the only thing really.
I really
that
like that
wondered.
scene too, where it was like in the little bottle and they
Yeah.
smash the bottle and it's like a little toy and it's growing. And then it gets to like they kind of have like a forced perspective where you think it's full size.
Yeah,
and then,
you,
like,
you
Jack
thought it
walks
had
up
already
to it.
grown, and it's still little.
It was bigger than it was, but it wasn't still quite the full blown pearl size.
That was fun. Yeah.
I like. It was a really good.
Silliness, but fun.
Yeah, the movie's silliness worked for it in every way except for the one scene with where they were
Oh, the
on
wedding scene.
the wedding scene.
Yeah, they get kind of marooned on that island, and
I had one bone to pick really with the movie. It was that was unnecessary.
it's totally unnecessary. That whole portion could have been cut because it could have just been, they get to this island, which the island could very well be deserted.
They needed to be on the island
But-
to escape
yeah.
Salazar.
Because Salazar, they could not walk on land.
Right.
And Barbosa could still catch up with them on the island,
Right.
but did not the way that it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like it padded the movie and it was supposed to be funny. And it was just like couldn't be more obviously a man dressed like a woman.
Yeah, just
the
unnecessary.
the one character I guess is in previous Pirates movies. Sparrow, he always runs into these shady characters, and you're always meant to know that they were in previous movies, but I didn't recognize him.
You talking about like
The one the guy looks like
the brother
Yeah,
of the man
he's trying
woman?
to get Jack to marry his sister.
Yeah, I don't know if he was
Anyway.
supposed to be somebody or the witch, like the actual witch, seemed like she was supposed to be somebody, but I didn't.
Yeah, I need to go back
recognize
and I'd like to rewatch. Like with any good sequel, like makes me want to go back and rewatch some of the original movies. This did that for me.
her. Yeah,
so
there's quite a few things that I wasn't familiar with, but I felt like I was supposed to be.
I really felt like that she was a character that if she wasn't in Stranger Tides, which is possible she could have been because I don't remember a lot about that
Because
movie.
it wasn't Calypso that was in 2 and 3.
Yeah. She must have been in Stranger Tides, and like I say, I just don't remember a lot of that movie. It was very forgettable. All I remember is Jack Sparrow was in it, and it had what's the girl?
Penelope Cruz?
Penelope Cruz.
Yeah.
Very pretty. Fine for the movie, but just did nothing to fit into the tales of the ongoing adventures of Jack Sparrow. Forgettable, as we've said. But yeah, Salazar. What did you think of his character?
I liked him.
He was pretty good.
Yeah,
Javier Bardem.
I liked him, yeah.
Nobody plays a creepy bad guy like Javier Bardem. Sparrow. But I like the special effects that from like the wavy hair and like meant to be like he was undersea. I guess underwater.
It kind of made me wonder, like, what's the difference between how he died at the Devil's Triangle and the curse of the Black Pearl, when they had stolen those coins. Because they were like zombies, I guess. But what was the difference between like the two curses, I guess? Because they appeared very different.
Yeah.
But and I guess on the Black Pearl curse, it was only at moonlight that they would appear as like skeletal and zombie.
From the very first movie.
Otherwise, they appeared normally.
These characters didn't really have that effect. They were just deteriorated in a
I guess-
way, and they were always like that.
I guess what the difference was, like Barbosa's men did not die at that time; they just were cursed. Salazar's men had died; they had shipwrecked
In a
right
very
then
traumatic
and
kind
had
of way.
died. And
That was a cool scene too, by the way, where Salazar was remembering. They tell in a flashback a young Jack Sparrow how
yeah,
the first.
so you get kind of an origin story of both of them actually.
And did you the voice of Sparrow? Did that not sound like Johnny Depp's voice over top of that actor? Like, because it sounded like.
I was trying to decide if they did some CG effects.
Oh, younged him up a little bit, like in the
younged
Marvel
him up.
universe.
I wondered if it was him, but they just
did look like him.
digitally made it look very young. I don't know.
It certainly sounded like him.
Yeah.
And he definitely looked very young. So if they didn't young him up, they found an actor that looked a lot like him.
I mean,
But that was an effective scene where you see Salazar's men get lost in the triangle. You get that origin tale of Jack Sparrow and how he became the captain for the first time.
Yeah, and it was fun to see his men give the offerings and so
the tribute.
The tribute.
Yeah, you see him get that hat.
All the stuff that you've always seen, like he has always had that bone.
In his hair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that was the beginnings of Jack Sparrow, and that was kind of a neat thing. It was only a few minutes long, and they didn't make a huge deal out of it, but I enjoyed that quite a bit. And the big, well, I wouldn't say it was a big surprise. You kind of saw it coming from a mile away, but the scientist girl ends up being the daughter of Barbosa. They kind of played that up a little bit in a pretty satisfying little.
And I think it was right around where the audience is starting to realize that they gave it away at the same time. I think very close, that without saying it in so many words, but it's kind of like a nod to Barbosa and Jack that don't say anything kind of a thing.
Right.
Yes, it's true. Don't say anything to her.
Very good movie. I liked all of the characters. How they brought them back into the movie. All the action scenes were really good. Some a bit more over the top than others, but 2 thumbs up for me.
Yeah,
definitely go check it out. Strange Dead Man Tell No Tales.
If you're a fan of the series, absolutely.
Yeah, don't let the reviews stray you from seeing it. Sometimes I can't help but get swayed by seeing a Rotten Tomatoes score or a Metacritic, and they're low. It's easily one of the more enjoyable movies I've seen this summer.
If you enjoyed the first trilogy, but maybe 4 turned you off, and so now you're on the fence, by all means, go back.
Yeah, go back. It's definitely worth seeing. So that's the end of our show. E3, not Stranger Tide. It's Pirates of the Caribbean review. Thanks for tuning in. I just want to remind everybody that we are now published on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music for the if you're an audio listener of the show, if you don't just watch on YouTube. Check us out there. I promised we'd be in that feed. Now we are. Also, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, and we would really appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Leave a comment down below if you have your own predictions for E3, or if you want to have a wish. If there's something that we didn't think of that you'd like to share. Anything else you'd like to add to that?
See you next time.
All right, I've been Ron Avis. This has been Nick Wright, and thanks for watching BitGeek Podcast.